A painful reminder now continues on Discovery Sunday.
Here, 4 million people were murdered. As many men, women, and children as you could pack into a great city. This camp was scientifically planned with a view to mass murder. Vast extensions were still being built. Arrangements of gas chambers, mortuaries, and incinerators. The normal extermination rate was 10,000 to 12,000 a day. 5 crematoria with a capacity of 279,000 per month. Germans had watched them die. They had wanted to watch them die, for they constructed special peepholes in the doorways of the gas chambers where they could observe the effects of the poison gas Zyklon. Here are some of the containers, the mask worn by the operator, and the poisons used for the injection. These children are twins. When identical twins were born to non-German parents, they were confiscated and handed over to an experimental station. German doctors injected them with diseases and attempted cures. Success in the cure was not important, as these children were written off, unknown. They had no names, only numbers tattooed on their arms.
Those adults who were picked out to live were quickly processed. Clothes were taken away, head shaved, and then they were numbered.
After being 2 days there, we got our number tattooed on our arm. You see, look. And that was already, to us, very immoral, you know. We felt like gangsters.
I mean, all you have to do is to shave a man's head, and immediately he's a nobody. He ceases to exist. And you isolate people from their families. Say somebody is taken with his family, then at one point they're separated, so you're alone. You get your head shaved and you get a number. You forget who you are. You're just nobody. The next thing is you get insulted. You get no food or just the subsistence level. So you're hungry, you're cold. You're made to stand up for hours and then to be counted. You probably have dysentery. You're not allowed to go and relieve yourself. And the end result is that you are an animal, or worse than an animal. And to see this happen to people who started off as perfectly normal human beings, and it's a process that works very fast. I mean, you could do this to anybody around here in no time. You can deprive people of their human dignity and get animals. And then it's very easy to destroy these animals. Nothing to do with human beings anymore.
If you were made of weakness, you went weak and you went into the gas chambers. The selections were once a month or so. The barracks were all locked. Nobody was allowed out. And there were a couple of doctors then, and they sat down and you had to march or walk past by. And if your bibs were skinny, your arms and so, you went sorted out for the gas chambers. Those that still had a bit of muscle on them, they were still allowed to live, to go on.
But there were sometimes guards who so clearly enjoyed what they were doing and so wholeheartedly threw themselves into it that they became, I suppose, an unbearable menace. And the particular individual, he wasn't even a German, he was a Ukrainian, a young Ukrainian kid wearing an SS uniform, whose hobby, it seemed, was to, whenever there was any crowd of prisoners around, would simply take his rifle, swing it above his head, and then bring it down on someone, whoever, for whatever reason. I mean, no, for no reason. And so really, all of us was in this, I suppose, unbearable jeopardy. And then one day an opportunity presented itself where we thought we could actually kill him and then not breathe easier, but breathe slightly easier. And so it was done.
There There were 667 known escapes from Auschwitz, but after any resistance came swift reprisals, including public hangings.
There were 12 Poles. It happened to be that one or two of the Poles had done something to an SS officer during the day, and for punishment they took 12 to be counted for. And I saw the man stand on a little bucket, a little bunk, a little wooden box or something. And the capo of the camp, he put the nooses around the necks. And then he kicked away the little box and he hung. The second one saw what was happening. Then it was his turn. The third one saw what was happening, and so on. Some of them didn't die quickly. The tongues came out of the mouth. The knot wasn't placed properly. The body turned and wriggled. I'll never forget that. 12. And when they were all there, they were cut down, loaded on a barrow, and wheeled away. And then they said, now everybody into the barracks. And we went into the barracks and we queued up for our soup. We had to forget that.
What sort of things were done?
Anything from having to stand for hours, the whole camp, on appels, on sort of being counted, recounted, or simply just standing there, to what the Germans called being zentled. That was a particularly fearful experience when literally people were counted off 1, 2, 3, 4 to 10, and the 10th one step out, whichever the 10th was, and they would be executed. And I've gone through 2 such zentlings in different places, and then you begin to realize also how chance it was that you were 9 or 8 and not 10. That's massive punishment, and it's a very powerful deterrent.
The Nazis succeeded in concealing the full reality of Auschwitz-Birkenau from Western governments until 1944. Information that reached Jewish agencies and governments in exile about extermination camps was often treated with great skepticism, as we can see in British and American government files. Historian Martin Gilbert has made a special study of these official documents.
There's no doubt that sometimes, reading it now, it is shocking for the modern reader to see how individual officials dismissed as rumors, as exaggeration, as Jewish sob stuff, the stories which reached them. But I believe these were a small group of officials, that somehow they didn't represent the mass, that their mental horizons were limited because they were writing in Whitehall, and the slaughters were taking place in countries they'd never seen, to people they'd never met, and on a scale which was actually incomprehensible even to the Jews themselves.
In spring 1944, 5 prisoners escaped from Auschwitz and brought out to the West the news of millions of deaths. An international outcry stopped the deportation of hundreds of thousands of Hungarian Jews midstream. As the Allies were bombing industrial targets only 5 miles from Auschwitz, Jewish agencies pressed them to bomb the camp, but they didn't. And in the summer, deportation started again.
We find some fairly hostile comments and a general reluctance by some officials to pursue it, on the grounds, as one of them put it, that it would lead to the loss of valuable British lives of pilots to no purpose. On the other hand, there were other officials who wouldn't accept this view and who urged that it should at least be looked into. Unfortunately, in the States, in the United States, the man responsible for dealing with it gave the instruction on the first request, kill it. And on the 5 subsequent times that he was asked by different Jewish bodies to look into the bombing of Auschwitz, he repeated his pro forma answer that this could not be done.
I always hoped if I get killed by a bomb here, it'll be a blessing to me. It'll end the misery. But none of such a thing happened. And the bombing that was done was nothing really. I didn't see any buildings coming down. I didn't see any railways being bombed. So I can't see what bombing was done, no. There was no damage done like bombing in Rotterdam or the bombing in London. So that was very little, and it was a disappointment to me.
There was one occasion, I think that was one of the most painful moments for me, when we were allowed in one of the camps in in Silesia called Liberosa, to send postcards. It was Sunday afternoon. Everybody was given a postcard and access to a pencil, which was very rare. And you could write anywhere in the world. And at first I was really, terrific. I'll write to somebody. And then I realized there was no one I could write to.
As the Russians got closer and closer, the Nazis tried frantically to conceal the evidence of mass murder. The gas chambers and crematoria of Auschwitz were blown up, and thousands died on forced marches as the remaining slave laborers were sent away from the east, back into the heart of Germany.
And we marched out. We walked from Auschwitz to Gleiwitz. A lot of incidents happened then. If you couldn't march along anymore, you were shot. I saw them run away from the march. Saw the SS kneel down, his gun on the shoulder, and there was another one dead.
What was the reaction of the German people along the way who saw you marching past?
I can only say what I observed, because I actually don't know what they may have felt. But I was a very young boy, and I know that we looked awful, ragged, probably muddy many times. I'm sure we actually looked hungry. And it still continues to puzzle and to trouble me that I can recall not a single instance when we're marching through villages and towns and suburbs, and in the midst of civilian people who are busy going to and from work and leading ordinary lives, that no one ever said hello or good luck or whatever. And no one ever threw an apple or an onion or a potato or a piece of bread at us. We were, consciously or otherwise, ignored. And we actually marched through, if there is such a thing as physical indifference. It struck me that that's what we were doing. We were walking through indifference.
A painful reminder will continue on Discovery Sunday.